What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Dorm Squad Sports, a college sports podcast focused on Alabama athletics. We're going to switch things up for you this week since it's our bye week anyways, and instead of having a normal breakdown and talking about the week in general, we're talking a lot about a fantasy Alabama draft. So pretty much the rules are we went in a snake order, so I had the first pick, Oakley had second, Bryant had third, and then Bryant, Oakley, and me, and we went through, we could get one quarterback, two running backs, three receivers, a tight end, a year of O-line, a year of defense, a kicker, punter, and O and defensive coordinator. So the 13 picks total, and we're going to go through it real quick. After that, y'all submitted a bunch of questions on Snapchat and Twitter, and we're going to read through those and give y'all some answers for that at the end. But we're going to start out. I had the first pick because I promised Oakley that if I drove him to the tie tip-off, I was going to have the first pick. And so I used it to take Tua Tagovailoa. And honestly, there was no other debate, honestly. You take the most important position and you get the best player, and it's probably the biggest gap between first and second players, so easy pick for me.
Yeah, that's who I would have taken, obviously. I think that's who everybody would have taken. But it was worth it to not have to drive. But anyway, my first pick, I took A.J. McCarron since really after that there's a little bit more of a drop-off, so I had to take the best quarterback available.
Yeah, with my first pick, I took Julio Jones. He didn't have the best stats at Alabama. He had good stats, but back in '09, we was really more kind of a pound and ground team. So didn't give him the football a whole lot. Quarterback wasn't the best, but he was still. That doesn't change how good he was. Everybody knew he was probably the best receiver in college football, and one of the best players too. And in the second round, I had the first pick, and I took the 2016 defense. It was really hard to decide between the 2016 and 2011 defense, but one thing I liked better about the 2016 defense is I felt like they were a lot more versatile, and they were really equipped to cover the offenses that are played nowadays. In 11, you had bigger guys like Jesse Williams, Courtney Upshaw, those guys up front, big linebackers like Dante Hightower, but in 2016, you had faster guys on the field like Reuben Foster, Sean Dion Hamilton, Jonathan Allen on the line, Deron Payne, those more athletic type guys, which, both defenses are really good. You can't really go wrong with them, but I like the 2016 because I thought it was a little more versatile and really had could stop these offenses that they run nowadays better.
Pretty much all the Bama defenses have been good under Saban. But since Brian took the 2016 defense, I decided to go ahead and take the 2011 defense because, that's arguably those two are the best ones under Saban. And like Brian said, the 2016 is more adapted for today's game, but you couldn't find a better defense in the country in 2011 just because of what he said. Those big guys, Jesse Williams, all those guys, they didn't let anybody score, and that's why I took him as my defense.
So since you two went ahead and took defenses, I decided to wait until the end and keep that pick in my back pocket. And I used my second round pick for Amari Cooper, mostly because you took Julio Jones, and I was afraid that if I waited another 6 picks, or 4 I guess, that there wouldn't be another high-level receiver on the board. And obviously, Tua has great options this year, but pairing up Amari Cooper with Tua is probably one of the most fun things to watch. So I picked the new Dallas Cowboy, Amari Cooper. After that, I figured since we went ahead and took defenses so early, we were going to start with O-line by the next time I took a pick. So I decided to get the 2012 O-line. Honestly, there's debate for the offensive line who the best one is, but I think it's pretty safe to say that 2012 wins. So I decided to take them. All of them went in the NFL. All of them were really good guys. So that was my pick.
And since Cody took the first O-line, I decided to continue my trend at taking the second best of the position taken in front of me. So I took the 2010 O-line. They had James Carpenter, Chance Warmack, William Vlachos, Barrett Jones, and DJ Fluker. And that's probably one of the strongest, most powerful group of guys that you're going to find under Saban.
My next pick, I took Derrick Henry. It was really tough. There's a lot of good running backs in the Saban era. It was really between him and Trent, but the one thing that I guess I honestly, it could be a different time of day, and I could pick a different one. But Henry's stats were better. I don't know if Henry was that much better of a running back. They were both outstanding, and Henry also won the Heisman Trophy on top of that. Then with my next pick, I took O.J. Howard. Probably the most underutilized athlete Alabama's ever had come through here. Just to say the least. He's a freak of nature. He's a 6'6" guy who he runs routes and catches the ball like a wide receiver, and then he goes inside and blocks like a good blocking tight end. So pretty much everything you want in a tight end, and one of the best to ever come through Alabama.
All right, since we're already started and they already took some receivers, I feel like I should probably take one. And I took Calvin Ridley. He's probably like the third best receiver you can make a case for. Usually people, when they rank them, they go Julio, Amari, Ridley, and that's how we took them. So I figured I'd probably just keep that trend going. Ridley was a smooth route runner and always reliable.
All right, I want to point out that a few episodes ago, Bryant gave me a bunch of crap for saying that Derrick Henry was the best running back to come through Alabama, and he took him as the first running back in the draft. But nonetheless, I decided to take Mark Ingram.
Hey, now listen, I didn't give you crap. I said Richardson was the best running back come to Alabama, and then that's when you started going off about Henry. I didn't give anybody crap.
Well, you still didn't take Richardson as your first pick, at the running back position at least. So anyway, I decided to take Mark Ingram mostly because, you can't really say anything bad about him. And honestly, if we were putting these on like NCAA 14 and running them, I might change my pick. But we're going to put these on a Twitter poll. And seeing Mark Ingram, that's definitely a fan favorite. You can't really go wrong with him. So that was my pick. And after that, since there's a huge gap, I think, between the top two tight ends and everybody else, and I really didn't want to be left with the third pick, I decided to go ahead and take Irv Smith. I think Irv Smith is a lot of things that O.J. Howard was, and then you add the fact that we're actually using him this year. Of course, he's getting plenty of touchdowns, plenty of receptions, especially now that Devontae Smith missed that last game. He's playing a little bit in the slot. Definitely makes highlight play after highlight play whenever you give him the ball. So just a great pick, in my opinion, overall.
I took, as my next pick, I took Jerry Jeudy. He's really a complimentary, or he plays a lot like Calvin Ridley does. A smooth route runner, very reliable catching the ball. I think he's a little bigger and maybe a little more athletic. Now, Ridley's probably a smoother route runner overall, but Jerry Jeudy's had really a breakout season this year, and he's probably going to end up as one of the best come through here.
Yeah, so with my next pick, I ended up getting both the top running backs, in my opinion, with Trent Richardson. Trent didn't win the Heisman, but he was still – I thought he was outstanding. I thought he was excellent. And then I took another receiver for my number 2 receiver next, and I had Ardarius Stewart. Probably one of the most – I think he's one of the more underrated receivers Alabama's ever had. Everybody thinks Calvin, Ridley, Amari Cooper, Julio Jones, and he wasn't as good as those guys, but he just made plays. He was an excellent blocker on the outside, and 2015, he might have been the leading receiver on the team. I'm not 100% sure on that. But anyways, he was. I think he's one of the more underrated receivers come to Alabama, and he's a really good one.
So it's about time for me to take a running back. I took Eddie Lacy in 2012. Really had a breakout year. He's known for that spin move, and behind that 2012 O-line, he's had an amazing year, especially national championship game. Just pounded Notre Dame. That stifling defense supposed to be. I took Eddie Lacy.
Okay, so up next, I decided might as well finish out my running backs, and I decided to take T.J. Yeldon. There's plenty of good guys I could have taken there. Obviously, there's still Kenyon Drake, all the running backs on the team now. There's plenty of picks you could have taken, but I think in terms of just Alabama history, Yeldon, he's a little bit more underrated just because he never really had the year that the big three had, but he's still a good guy to take overall. And up next, I want to go ahead and get another wide receiver since we really hadn't had the coaches or the specialists yet. And I decided to take Devontae Smith. Obviously, there's plenty of people still on the board. Ruggs was a really hard one to pick between those two. Kevin Norwood was still on the board. But the way I see it, I have Tua at quarterback. And if I can keep that 2nd and 26 pairing, you can't go wrong.
Okay, so I went ahead and wanted to take Lane Kiffin as my offensive coordinator just because after that there's a huge drop off. Our offensive coordinators under Saban were Major Applewhite, Doug Nussmeier, McElwain, Brian Dayball, Steve Sarkisian, and then Lane Kiffin is way up on a pedestal above all of them. So I wanted to take him to make sure nobody else got him.
All right, so after that, I took J.K. Scott. Undoubtedly, in my mind, probably the best punter in Alabama history. And now he's doing great in the NFL here in his first season. Next after that, I took a coordinator. I took defense coordinator Jeremy Pruitt. A lot of people probably would have went with Kirby right here, and that's fine. But I think they were both good. One thing I like about Pruitt is he was more aggressive. I think especially like third and long, second and long, Kirby would kind of just sit back and play conservative and try to not give up the big play. But Pruitt, he always played fast. He was very aggressive, and then so that's why I took him.
Well, since you took Pruitt, I figured I'd take the next best thing. Some people's minds probably the first best in Kirby Smart. Won championship under Saban and was just a great defense coordinator altogether.
So since Lane Kiffin was off the board, I really thought about go ahead and getting my guy off the board, Mike Locksley. Of course, this is his first year, so there's not really a whole lot you can say in terms of long term. But obviously, behind Lane Kiffin, there's really a drop off, and this is the most electric offense we've had ever. So you can't go wrong with taking the OC in charge right now. And now we made these picks earlier, and you're gonna already give me crap, and you deserve to because I made a bad pick. I was so confident. I was like, I'm gonna take the first kicker. This is the worst position in Alabama history, and I'm gonna get my guy. I'm gonna take the comparative advantage and make my move. And I picked Jeremy Shelley. And Oakley, why was that a bad idea?
Well, look, I think you're giving yourself too much crap because Jeremy Shelley was a good kicker, especially within short range. But I took Lee Tiffin. I think he was probably better from longer. Also really reliable. I think he's probably the better kicker overall. But I think you're giving yourself a little too much crap. Jeremy Shelley was amazing. But I think I won that pick, especially since I got it next in Lee Tiffin.
Well, let's be honest. I got Tua throwing in Amari Cooper and Devontae Smith. I'm kicking extra points.
All right, so we're on round 9, right?
Yeah.
All
right, so my next pick, I took Blake Sims. It was a tough time deciding between Blake Sims and Jake Coker. I actually changed it to Blake Sims at the last minute. They were both I thought they were both good quarterbacks. Sims had some really high moments during the season. He also had some really low moments. I thought Kiffin did an amazing job with him. Until this year's finish with 2014 was probably the most explosive offense we had ever had. And, Sims kind of brought that running ability, was kind of the first mobile quarterback we had here. And I think it kind of opened Saban's eyes and some other people around the program's eyes to what a running quarterback can do for an offense. And he didn't win the championship here, but, it wasn't his fault. He gave up 49 points to Ohio State in the semifinal, though. So I thought he'd done a good job. Most people never thought he'd be the starter here. Most people thought he'd always be a garbage time quarterback who came in and ran some read option stuff. And I probably thought that too, or I know I thought that, when he was ever a sophomore and junior. But he really surprised me with how well he threw the ball, especially how well he could throw the ball downfield. He was really good. After that, I took Kevin Norwood. He was a pretty reliable receiver, in my opinion. You need a guy to go to Norwood. Had really good hands. He made several. He made a really impressive catch in the Tennessee game here in 13, I think it was. And, he's a really good receiver.
Okay, so since you took J.K. Scott, I was going to take the next best thing, in my opinion. I mean, there haven't been a whole lot under Saban, but I took Cody Mandel, who was the punter before J.K. Scott. Not an extra great guy, but a reliable punter. And I was like, might as well go ahead and take mine.
So after that, I only had one position left where I had to compete with y'all to pick a guy, and it was my last wide receiver pick. It was Marquise Mays. Obviously, there's so many good wide receivers, but I honestly think he's probably underrated as a receiver. He did a lot. He definitely played with heart. I believe I think he got injured in the national championship game and wasn't able to play the whole game, and you could just tell how much Alabama meant to him. Maybe not great in terms of what he did in the NFL or where he got drafted. Actually, he might have gone undrafted. I don't remember. But just good Alabama guy, good in the history books. And after that, I only had 3 picks left, and it was all picks that you already made, so I just had to take the third best option. So I went and took defensive coordinator next, and I took Tosh Lupoi. Obviously, our defensive coordinator right now. Again, another guy with his first year under his belt. But Kirby Smart, Jeremy Pruitt, definitely the best two. After that, really some question marks. And I like the way our defense has been playing right now, so might as well give it to him. And I had my defense pick later, and it's a good defense, so I wasn't really concerned.
Yeah, so my next pick was my other running back, and I'm honestly surprised he fell this far. I took Kenyon Drake. I had a huge national championship game, and was just always the reliable running back, physical guy, super fast. That's what the guys said on the team. Whenever he was running scout team, he just always ran really hard and was always quick and hard to tackle. And he's having a great NFL career so far, and so that's why I took Kenyon Drake.
Well, my next pick, I took Adam Griffith, and let's be honest. After Lee Tiffin, Alabama's kickers really fall off a lot during the Saban era. But Griffith, he made a kick in Baton Rouge in 2014 to send it to overtime, and Alabama ended up winning the game. And then also in the national championship game, he had the onside kick, which was huge. He kicked it perfectly. And then after that, I took the 2009 offensive line. Had some guys like Barrett Jones, James Carpenter, just to name a few. But one thing about that offensive line is, like, teams knew we were going to run the ball. They knew we weren't going to throw it. We probably didn't throw the ball, but, I would bet we probably threw the ball less than 15 times in that championship game against Texas in 2009. And Texas knew we was going to run the ball, and we would still just line up and run it right down their throats. And it's a lot harder to run the ball when the defense is stacking the box. But, when you got a great O-line and then great running backs with Ingram and Richardson, it's possible.
So I still was yet to pick a tight end. So I took Michael Williams. This guy was not probably as versatile as your tight ends, Irv and OJ, but a really good blocker. We didn't really need him to be a pass-catching tight end because we didn't throw the ball as much back then. But like I said, bigger guy, good blocker, reliable when you did throw the ball to him.
Okay, so I had 2 picks left. For the defense, like I said, I had a good defense, 2015 defense. Just some people on it. A'Shawn Robinson, Jonathan Allen, he was a backup. You had Jerron Payne in there, Jaron Reed, Dylan Lee, Reggie Ragland, Sean Dion Hamilton, Reuben Foster, corners, Cyrus Jones, Marlon Humphrey. You had Crazy Tony and Minka backing up. Eddie Jackson at safety. Minka played a lot of star that year. There were just a lot of good options there. And honestly, it's an Alabama defense. Like, what else do you want? And then my punter was the last pick I had, and I just took P.J. Fitzgerald. Honestly, I would say definitely after J.K. Scott, you really start scratching your head trying to find names. I think Cody Mandel is an easier one because he started for a long time. But P.J. Fitzgerald is an older guy, but he was never necessarily a bad punter. But, I mean, he was definitely quality. But at that point, you just have to take your last pick.
Okay, so for my last pick, my last wide receiver, I took Henry Ruggs III. He really had a breakout year, really a breakout game in the national championship game. He had a solid year, but in the national championship game, he really came alive, especially on early in the second half. Tua was just getting hot. I think he threw the ball to him 3 or 4 times in a row en route to that touchdown. I think it was the first touchdown that Bama scored, and really got things started and got things pumping. And he's had a good year so far, so I took Henry Ruggs.
Yeah, so my last pick, I needed an offensive coordinator, so I took Brian Dable. I don't think he was as bad as a lot of Alabama fans. I don't really know what Alabama fans' opinion on him, or as a whole at least. But I feel like he's probably a little better than what the general consensus is. I think he's more of a play caller than a quarterback developer. I think that they brought him in here hoping that he could develop Jalen a little bit and to more of a pocket passer, really. And he really didn't. He didn't do a great job of that. But in the second half of the national championship game with Tua, I thought the play calling was great. I think once he got the quarterback in there, who was more of a pocket passer, more of a little NFL style guy, I thought the offense did really well. And it's probably been said a lot, and it really can't be said enough. But he called that second half with a true freshman quarterback, a true freshman left tackle, and 3 true freshman receivers, and a freshman running back playing. So that's an outstanding job for Brian Dable.
Okay, so before we switch up into something else, I think all of us, since we're going to do a Twitter poll, we all need to defend our picks and why you need to vote for our team. I'll go first because I had the first pick. So obviously there's a big elephant in the room in this, and it's the fact that I have Tua throwing the ball. He could throw it to pretty much the 3 of us, and we're going to get touchdowns at Alabama. He'll just put the ball anywhere you need it to. And instead of throwing to the guys he's throwing now, which are all 5 stars, he's throwing to Amari Cooper, who's a talented NFL receiver. He's throwing Irv Smith, which he's already doing. Throwing to Devontae Smith, who's your second 26 guy. That have that connection still. I thought that was really important. Loxley, who's been coaching him up this year, is still coaching him. He's throwing to Marquise Mays, who's a good changeup guy. Then you have Mark Ingram, Heisman winner, going behind the best offensive line that Alabama's ever had. And then just to finish it out, we have someone who's going to make some extra points and one of the best defenses in Alabama history. So I think you should totally vote for me. Just saying.
Okay, so here's my picks. Literally, this is the only quarterback on the whole roster who had 2 national championships so far, in A.J. McCarron. One of the best leaders that Bama's had. Which doesn't matter how many points you're going to score because nobody's going to score on this 2011 defense. Arguably the best one under Saban. 2010 O-line had great big guys, can move. And you got Lane Kiffin, who's going to call plays up for Kenyon Drake, super fast guy. He's going to be super good for this new style offense. Eddie Lacy can be more of a power guy if you need him to be. Usually going to be more of like I said earlier, spin move. But AJ's going to be throwing the ball to Ridley, Judy, and Henry Ruggs. All super fast guys, super good route runners. Just Lane Kiffin dialing up the plays to these guys, I think gives me the advantage. Kirby Smart with that 2011 defense. And then you got Lee Tiffin kicking field goals. He's not going to miss. Cody Mandel is going to give you pretty average punts. And Michael Williams. Yeah, what do you want me to say? I'm not going to say he's not going to be punting 70 yards. And then Michael Williams is going to help you in the running game.
All right, I'm gonna ask Cody a couple questions here to help me defend my team. Cody, do I or do I not have the best wide receiver available?
You have the best wide receiver available.
Do I have the best running back available?
You do have the best running back available.
Do I have the best tight end available?
Yes, probably.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much what you need to know right there. Also, I got another question. Do I have the best punter available?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on. I got the best punter.
Hold on a second. It's not always about the Jimmies and Joes. It's about the X's and O's. And my boys have the best X's and O's. I don't think you can argue that.
If it was about the X's and O's, no, I'm not gonna go there.
I didn't say it's not about the X's and O's. I said you have to take that into account.
Yeah,
Okay.
but are you saying my X's and O's are bad?
No, your X's and O's aren't bad. But your offensive coordinator is Brian Daboll. Come on, man.
Okay, so Brian, you have 1 Heisman Trophy winner. I have 1.5 because I'm already giving Tua half the Heisman. And if with my defense, you're going to have Julio Jones. He's not going to be locked up every play, but he's not going to have a completely ball-out game. So you're going to have to go to those other options. And the same thing goes for y'all's defenses. Amari Cooper's going to be guarded some, and he's going to be defended well. But Tua can go to every single option. So...
And then you look at my defense, man. I paired Jeremy Pruitt. I paired the band back together right there, man. And then once Henry gets tired, just bring in Richardson. He'll run right over you. They're all good teams. It'd be interesting to see them all play against each other for sure. But
yeah, if we had too much time on our hands, we do it in NCAA 14. But we're college students and we have exams, so not really an option. But just to recap, Bryant 1 Heisman. Oakley 0 Heismans, me 1.5. Bryant 0 coconuts and pineapples. Oakley 0 coconuts and pineapples, and I'm slinging all them coconuts and pineapples.
Okay, well I have more national championship quarterbacks than either of y'all. My guy has 2. Yours has 1. Yours has 0. Bryant, Cody, yours has 1. So, just saying.
Alrighty. Well, you have the right to your opinion, no matter how wrong you may be.
Also have the right to kick your tail with Lane Kiffin.
Although I will say, if this came out into a fist fight, I would totally take Lane Kiffin. Let's be honest. You definitely have the best Twitter troll out of all of us. So, up next, we're going to do some picks later on. But I asked y'all on Twitter and on my personal Snapchat to send me any questions y'all have about just Alabama in general. I got some football questions. I got some basketball questions. I have some just general university questions. So there's just plenty to pick from. First one I got is from Tucker. Tucker asked me if we think Alabama's receivers are going to be able to create open space against the LSU defensive backs. So one of y'all can take that first.
Yeah, this will definitely be the toughest defensive backfield we've played all season long. LSU probably has one of the best defensive backs in college football. Greedy Williams, one of the best corners in the nation. But, yeah, I think they'll be able to create some separation for sure. As good as the LSU secondary is, I think Alabama has potentially 4 first-round picks at wide receiver right there. Judy's probably separated himself from the pack. Devontae Smith, he'll be healthy, and we've seen what he can do. Henry Ruggs is one of the fastest guys I've ever seen. It's insane how fast he is. Just watch him get the ball and run. And then, Jalen Waddle, whenever he comes in as the fourth receiver, another fast, shifty guy. And, it's gonna be a fun battle to watch. It's gonna be probably the battle of the game, in my opinion, is LSU's DBs versus our receivers. But they'll win some battles and we'll win some battles, but it'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, I think the biggest part about it is we don't need every receiver to get open on every play. We just need to get one guy open, and Tua is going to find him. So unless they can lock down our guys across the board, which I don't think they can, because I think we're going to have some mismatches here and there. If there's an opening, or if there's a potential opening, Tua will find it. So as long as we can get, even if it's just a tight end or like a halfback screen, if we can just get that offense rolling, I understand how good LSU's defense is. They're probably one of the best in the country, and it's going to be hard to play in Tiger Stadium. But I'm not too worried just because at the end of the day, we just need one guy, and Tua's going to be able to find him.
Yeah, I mean, there's NFL guys on LSU's defense, and there's going to be NFL guys on our offense. But I don't think you can contain our offense, how explosive it is, even if Devontae Smith's not there, which I assume he's going to be. I mean, he's had this last week off, then you have this bye week this week, and then by LSU he should be good to go. But either way, you still have Judy, Smith, Ruggs, Waddle, and then Irv and Josh Jacobs, Najee, Damian. I mean, there's just too many weapons. I know some of those aren't wide receivers, but there's too many weapons. You can use those to get the wide receivers open and create some space. And LSU's DBs are going to win some. Grant Delpit's one of the best safeties in the nation. And Greedy Williams is arguably the best cornerback in the nation, but they're not going to win every battle. And I think Tua is going to make them pay when they don't.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Up next, our next question, Kinsley, she asked, how is Tua so successful in college football right now? And I think that's just a great question.
Yeah, it's a great question because I feel like to this day's and age's game was made for Tua. It's everything he strives for. All the openness, all the speed, all the types of players, and really the team we have right now, because these are Tua's guys. You got the right side of the line came in with Tua. Judy, Ruggs, and Smith came in with Tua, and they all know him, and that's what's making. I think this team in general, they all love him, and they're all brothers, and they came in together, and I think that's amazing. And just the fact that the past is relevant now more than ever, I think, is one reason why Tua is thriving, because that's obviously his strength.
I think the biggest thing that makes Tua so successful is probably honestly just his God-given talent. You can't teach a lot of the stuff that he does. His field vision is second to none that I've ever seen play. His ability to avoid pressure in the pocket, extend plays, to put balls on a rope right where they need to be. It's just insane. He has insane accuracy. Got a good strong arm too. He's just a complete package. There's not really one thing that makes him what he is. It's a really big package of things that he's all good at that makes him really good.
Yeah, and you have to put some of that on his parents, because his parents are definitely a great upbringing. They're at all the games. They moved from Hawaii to Alabama so they can support him. having a great family life like that and having a great support system behind you makes anything possible. Obviously, not take away from what he already does, but that's just an extra little boost that you get with him. Next question, honestly, probably the hardest question to answer from Sarah. She asked, is it up to Alabama to set the precedent by pushing to schedule only Power 5 teams in the near future instead of just suggesting that we do it to avoid strength of schedule conflicts? That's a lot of words at once. But I'll go ahead and take it first because I think part of it is on Alabama, but most of it's on the SEC. Of course, Alabama is going to lead the way, but we need to get the entire SEC to be playing 9-game conference as opposed to what we do right now. Because if we can get to that, that really helps out the fact that there's fewer games. So if you have a 12-game regular season, you have 9 SEC games, and even if you want to add like a 10th or something, and then you have one season opener against a good team, and then you can find some lower level Pac-12 team or something. It's really good. The only thing is we can't do it alone because it makes zero sense for us to stop scheduling cupcake games before the Iron Bowl if Auburn's going to keep scheduling cupcake games before the Iron Bowl. You have to really play with the league around you. And we're not going to intentionally make ourselves worse when we're going to go undefeated in the regular season, or at least one loss most times, and we're not going to lose those games anyway, and we don't really need the strength of the schedule. So even though we need to lead that way, it's not completely on us because we're not the ones that aren't benefiting from a strength of schedule. We're still in the playoff every single year, so they obviously respect what Alabama's doing no matter who they play.
Yeah, I think that it's not up to Bama to set the precedent because, I mean, they can toast us as much as they want to for saying that we have a weak strength of schedule, but since 2014, we've made the playoff every single year. So as long as we're making the playoff, I don't think that Saban's going to start scheduling some harder games like, oh, this isn't hard enough. We need to do better. Literally, we wouldn't gain anything by being the first one to do that. If the nation started moving that way, then we would probably hop on that wagon and start going too. But I don't think we'd be the first ones to do it because it really wouldn't benefit us.
Saban's been an advocate for playing all Power 5 schools for 12 games. It has nothing to, it's not an Alabama thing. It's a NCAA thing, in my opinion. Saban said he wants to play 9 conference games and then, all other Power 5 schools, to make the competition, level more fair. But, Alabama, they're going to continue what they've done for, what they've always done, unless, the NCAA steps in and would do what Saban would like for them to do. Another thing is, a lot of people say that Alabama don't ever play, tough out-of-conference games, and when they do, they always do that neutral site. Saban said we can't get anybody to come play us at Bryant-Denny Stadium. They'll say, yeah, you can come play us here, but we don't want to come play you there. And if you notice, Alabama has started scheduling some home and homes, but they're all after Saban's contract's up. So I think some teams are hoping that he may be done by then. So, that's that.
Yeah, I guarantee you if he gets extended, then we're going to lose a lot of those games, and we're going to have to schedule some more neutral sites. Up next, it's 2 questions, both from Micah. First, how will lack of carries affect Damien Harris's draft stock?
I don't think it is. They have enough film on him, the past 3 years for sure. And, even had some carries his freshman year too. But I actually think that it may help him a little bit because teams don't want a running back, in my opinion, who carried the ball 50 times a game for 3 years at a school because they're not going to last as long in the NFL if they've already been through all that. But if they can get a fresh running back who they know who isn't as beat up, isn't as down with injuries, and that still is a really good running back like Damien is, I don't think it's going to hurt his draft stock at all. I think he'll still be probably somewhere in the – he could go late first round. I think it'll probably be somewhere more between 2 and 4, but I don't think it's going to hurt his draft stock at all.
I think there are a lot of things that can hurt his draft stock involved with this decision. I don't really think it's going to be lack of carries. If anything, it's going to be lack of production in the carries and just the fact that you're going to have another year on your tires and you're just getting another full season where you could be helping them instead you're in college. I think if he had declared last year, he probably would have been somewhere in that, day 2 range, except he probably would have been let's see, there was definitely Darius Geis, there was definitely Saquon Barkley, probably Darius Geis, maybe Rashad Penny. There were a lot of good running backs that might have gone above him. And even if his draft stock decreases in terms of where they value him, there aren't good running backs in this draft class. And I think that's another reason why he decided to wait, because there's no Saquon Barkleys in here. I'd be surprised if any running back went in the first round. So chances are he's still going to be a day 2 pick. He might slip into that third day in that 4th, 5th round range, but he's probably going to be drafted somewhere around the same place. And he really valued that extra year of playing for Alabama. So I think it's a win-win situation for him.
Yeah, I think you were right when you said the thing about the lack of production in the carries. He's still getting carries, but he's it's hard to see the production because other people are getting so many carries. Najee has another year under his belt. Josh Jacobs is healthy. Brian Robinson has another year, and he's getting stronger. So he's not getting the ball as much. And especially, I think what's going to help him is like what you said about there not being as many good running backs in this class. We thought there might be because Bryce Love had an amazing year last year. It was, I think, like 3rd in the Heisman race, and then Jonathan Taylor we thought was going to be really good. He's had a better year than Love, but he still hasn't been near the kind of player. I think those people might still go over at least Jonathan Taylor over Damian Harris, but that's really helped, especially having the year under his belt, showing that he's a team player. I think may help him.
Yeah, honestly, I think Snell might also.
Yeah,
Benny Snell. Yeah,
that's what I was about to say. I think I'm not talking about any NFL because I don't know. I haven't really watched. I haven't watched them a whole lot. I've watched them enough to say this, but I think it's very possible that Benny Snell, maybe the best running back or production-wise, has maybe been the best running back in college football this season. Your thoughts on that would be interesting.
Yeah, honestly, I think so. And another thing is with the NFL draft, there's so much more besides what you do in college.
Right.
It's the film itself.
Yeah.
Because if you have a great O-line, obviously you're just going to do anything. Or if you're just like bigger and stronger than anyone, that's not fair. But I think the way he sees the holes and the way he can catch out of the backfield some. And also, I mean, we've all seen his interviews. If you put him in a hotel room and you start interviewing him and asking him questions and figure out, is this my guy? He's going to be your guy. You can't not like the guy.
Yeah. Doesn't have a whole lot to do with the question, but when you're saying like production isn't everything, when they look at it in the NFL, and like that's a big thing that a lot of people don't understand is that college production isn't everything. It's something, but it's not everything. Because like for instance, take the position of running back. Some guys run behind better O lines than other guys. Some guys get a lot more carries than other guys. But that's what the combine's for. See how fast you are, see how strong you are. And if you have a good combine and you run fast, you're strong, you jump far, NFL teams say, hey, I can teach this guy something. Or, he really is this good. He maybe just didn't play on a good team in college football. And, we can make him something really good.
Yeah, like you said, Eddie Lacy ran behind one of the best offensive lines, arguably under Saban, arguably the best. And now, like, where is he? He's jumped from team to team to team, and obviously he's not starting. Like, I don't even know where he is. He's packed on some weight, I know, but like you can tell he's not the same player as he was in college. And I think that had to do with the O-line. I think he's still talented, but probably not as much as we thought.
And then the same side of that coin, Derrick Henry, he was just bigger and stronger than everybody. Of course, he still had the other things as well, but he hasn't had the best NFL career as of yet. And then you flip it the other way, Kareem Hunt, he really wasn't high on a lot of draft boards, and he came out of a smaller school, and he just proved it's not about your situation in college. It's about get you on the team, get you in those reps, and see what you can do.
Yeah, like Kenyon Drake, he was our backup for years, and like now he's starting for the Miami Dolphins, and he's having a good career, and I just think that's awesome.
Yeah. Micah's other question is: this is assuming that Jalen Hurts isn't ready for the LSU game. How will Mac Jones hold up as the new fourth quarter Alabama quarterback, assuming Jalen's injury doesn't completely heal?
I think that's going to be interesting to see, considering we haven't seen a whole lot of Mac. Last year he redshirted. He had a good A-Day this year, but throughout thus far, he's only gotten very limited snaps and thrown very limited balls. So we don't really know, in my opinion. So that's one thing I'm really anxious to see is what Mac Jones is going to do. I think he has the talent to do it because we've seen him make those throws, but just the execution is going to be huge.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that if Jalen isn't ready, now Saban said it's only going to be a 1-week injury, but I'm going to say if Jalen isn't ready unless it's just like 70-0 in the fourth quarter, I think he'll probably leave Tua in there instead of handing the ball off. I don't see him putting Mac Jones in the game. Unless it's like a 6 touchdown lead at the end, which I don't think it's going to be that.
Yeah.
But
I think the biggest thing is the biggest effect of this cause is going to be that we're finally going to see Tua in more of a game, because if we had Mac Jones this whole year, then we probably would have seen Tua in the fourth quarter at some point. Having that great, backup quarterback really takes that off your shoulders. But yeah. I'm not really that worried.
I'm not a believer in no matter what the score really, and putting a redshirt freshman who really hasn't played a whole lot of ball in Baton Rouge at night in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Okay, we got 2 more football questions, then a basketball question and a university one. One of them from Miles. Predict who will be in the national championship game and the final score.
Oh man, that's kind of hard considering we know Alabama, but the other team we don't really know because the number 2 is just switching every week who's there. I mean, I guess I'll just go right now with Clemson, Alabama, Clemson. I think they have the talent. I think maybe in the coming weeks they figure things out more. Maybe it starts to click. They looked good against NC State, so I'll take Bama, Clemson. I still think Bama wins probably 45-21.
Wow, that'd be some nice championship game, man.
God.
That would be
though?
surprising. That would be very surprising.
Yeah, especially against Clemson's D-line. That'd be really hard to
Yeah.
do.
Well, I don't know. I don't think they'd hold Trevor Lawrence to 21 points. I mean, I think Trevor Lawrence would move the ball on them. Clemson's got a really good offense. I mean, stats are stats, but I might be wrong, but I think this may be one of Dabo's most efficient offenses through how many ever games they played. Which, I mean, I don't know. That's tough. It's tough to pick the national championship game as a blowout. It could happen, but
that's Notre Dame.
I'm just saying, also.
Yeah. Well, that's different. Notre Dame was Notre Dame from a talent standpoint. They were not even top 5, top 10 in the country. Probably Clemson, legit. Probably I would say Clemson NFL talent. I'd say probably the 4th most talented roster in college football behind Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia. But and they got the quarterback to do it, in my opinion.
Well, here's the thing. We're putting up 50-something on people, and Tua hasn't played in the fourth quarter. I feel like in the national championship game, Tua's probably going to play in the fourth quarter. I understand that they probably had the best defensive line in the nation now, especially since Nick Bosa's gone from Ohio State. But their DBs are not as good as a lot of teams are, and I think Tua can really exploit that. They may score more than 21, but I mean, not a whole lot of teams have up to this point.
I just want to point out how beautiful what you said was. You said that Tua in the national championship game will probably play in the fourth quarter. And honestly, that's what we're working with. Other teams are playing checkers and Bama's just out here playing chess. I do think Clemson has the best chance to make it. Obviously, if things go the same way, if they're not number 2, they're going to be number 3. So they're probably going to be fighting for the championship game alongside Alabama and not against Alabama in the semifinal. But one thing that's going against Clemson is they don't have the Tua factor. And by that, I mean they had to put in their star quarterback so early in the year that we're going to have the ability to watch the film and realize how to stop him a little bit easier. Georgia, they were just not prepared for Tua. They didn't have any film on him. They did not expect him to get in the game. We know what Clemson's about on offense now. Of course, Etienne's a great running back, and they have a great quarterback. But at the end of the day, we're going to have film, and we're going to be able to prepare for them, which I think is very important for us.
I think it also helps that we played them the last 3 years in a row, so we kind of know what they have going. And, I don't know, Etienne's really good. And they have some good receivers, but they don't have that Mike Williams that they had before. Deion Kane's gone now. I mean, they have Justin Ross and Higgins, but I don't know. I think the youth may play a factor. Obviously, he's going to mature if they make it to the national championship game. But I don't know, man. I just think it'd be tough.
I guess my biggest thing with that, like Alabama beating Clemson bad would be, I'm like, the defense is really gonna have to, really like, and they have been improving, but we're gonna need to continue to see some of that improvement if they want to keep them out of the 30s. Because I think Clemson's got a good high-powered offense, one of the best in college football.
Yeah, I think also like we don't know this yet, but it's a possibility that Terrell Lewis makes his way back, and that would be absolutely huge for Bama, especially the pass rush, because that's kind of something we haven't had a whole lot of up to this point. But if he comes back, it's gonna be a whole new monster.
Yeah, definitely. The last football-related question from Kyle. He asked, ideally, if Tua goes in the draft in 2 years, ideally, like, what team would you want to see him on? And I know Oakley's answer because we've already talked about it. And I don't think it's realistic in terms of draft order because Tua is probably going to be in a top 5 pick. But Oakley he'd probably move to New Orleans if Tua was a Saint when it's all said and done.
Dude, I would love for Tua to become a New Orleans Saint. That would be amazing because it's going to be perfect. Drew Brees got another year or two left in him. As soon as he's going to retire, and then Tua's just going to step right in, pick up right where he left off.
Break all his records.
That would be something. I'm not going to say that yet, but it's definitely a possibility. I don't know about definitely, but he's Drew Brees is one of the best to ever do it, but Tua has that potential for sure.
Yeah, and also they are pretty much the exact same play style.
Oh, I mean they're short, like guys that can definitely sling it.
Yeah. Realistically, do you have any other like realistic ideas?
Not really. I think Dallas could be an interesting option if depending on which they say they believe in Dak, and that's fine. But let's be honest, he hasn't been producing that much, and they could. And they got a good offensive line. They got a great running back in Zeke Elliott. They just added Amari Cooper. They have Cole Beasley, who's one of the better slot receivers. And the defense for Dallas, isn't terrible. So that's just. Obviously, you don't know because we're not even close to the 2019 draft, let alone the 2020 draft. But
I will say this: I think there's only going to be. I think it's going to be bigger for free agency to find a quarterback because I think only one NFL team is going to come out of the 2019 class happy about their quarterback selection, and that's assuming Herbert decides to go. There have been a lot of rumors that he's going to stay another year, which would be very dumb of him. But honestly, that's their only option in 2019. So the teams that are looking about a quarterback now are the ones who are trying to make that call about should we give him a little bit more time or should we pull the plug. I think they're still going to be up. Jacksonville is an option. They're probably going to have too high of a pick. New York's still an option.
Mm-hmm.
Miami's an option. If Oakland decides to bail on Derek Carr, Oakland's an option. There's plenty of things there. One thing I will say about New Orleans is they have a history of going after their guy. They did it this last year. They gave up a 2019 first round to get a defender in the 2018 first round and make sure they got their guy. And it seems to work out for them. So they've proven that if they have a guy in sight, they're going to do whatever it takes to get him, even if that means risking losing picks in other years. And 2019 is going to be one of the most valuable draft classes of recent memory. So 2019 picks are going to be at a high premium. So they'd have to give up a lot to get a top 5 pick. But I wouldn't put anything as impossible just yet because there's way too much time.
Not too related. Something I read on Twitter for as far as the 2019 draft. Cole Kublik, one of the if you don't follow him, you follow him. One of the best. He provides some of the best offensive line and defensive line analysis out there. He played offensive line at Auburn, and he's really good at what he does on Twitter. And he tweeted something. I believe it was today. He said. I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, I've watched Houston play. Houston has Ed Oliver. I've watched Michigan play. They have Rashawn Gary. And he said, I've watched Clemson play. They have, 3 or 4 guys. And he said, I can say that Quentin Williams is playing better than any defensive lineman in college football right now. And that's really that's really something huge to say considering, with the other guys at those teams I just named. So he could be interesting to see if he goes in this next 2019 draft because he will be eligible as a redshirt sophomore.
I think one of the only things like he can do to really bump up his status is just get a little bigger because he's got the technicals down. Obviously, he's strong. It's just like he doesn't look as physically imposing. Obviously, his production speaks for itself, but that's the only thing I can see. Like he's not as big as like an Ed Oliver or Rashawn Gary.
Yeah, 2019 is definitely going to be a big year for Alabama. Of course, every year is. But it's going to be a silent year because a lot of people are going to look forward to his year. But if you think about it, you're going to have Jonah Williams, Quentin Williams, Raekwon Davis, Deontay Thompson, Mac Wilson, maybe Terrell Lewis if he's available, Anthony Jennings if he decides to go. You just have so many options. You know, Damian Harris, I'm not sure if I've said him yet or not. But there's just going to be so many people, and a lot of them are going to get first round looks. And again, this draft class is not that stacked. There's a lot of defensive line play, and there's a lot of linebacker play. But past that, you're not really going to find your guy. So if you're in the top, one or two at your position, you're going to go early just because if you need that guy now, you're going to have to get him. You can't wait and take the fourth best running back or quarterback or receiver off the board, because they're just not depth that we've seen in previous years. Alabama basketball question. With the departure of Colin Sexton, how important is it, this is from Carter by the way, how important is it for Kira Lewis and Dazon Ingram to step up at that point guard position?
I mean, it's important, but it's important. It's not just important for those two guys. It's important for everybody on the team to step up a little bit. Which, I mean, everybody, the goal when everybody comes back, no matter who leaves, everybody should be taking it to another step the next season. Like I said, you can't just look at whoever the point guard is on the floor to replace Colin Sexton. Yeah, Dazon Ingram needs to take the next step. Kira Lewis, he'll need to take the next step as the season progresses. But you can say that same thing about every single player on the team. Everybody's got to take the next step because no one player is going to be able to duplicate what Sexton did last year, and it's going to take a whole team effort. And they can do it. There's no doubt in my mind. But, it's just going to be one of those things where the whole team's going to have to carry some weight if they want to get some production like they got last year.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think one of the things, though, about this year is that Sexton had to carry the team maybe a little more because we were younger, less experienced. This year, Herb is a sophomore, Petty's a sophomore, Hall's a senior. Everybody else has a year under their belt, and that's going to help a whole lot. So no matter who's the point guard, the whole team is going to elevate to the next level. Anyway.
This is the perfect question because we also have to plug a couple things. First off, I'm actually writing a Busting Brackets article about this right now. And just a brief bit of what I'm going to say in the article is, one, I'd be shocked if Kira Lewis starts game one. He didn't start on either team of the tie tip-off. So even though I think he's going to start later on in the year in terms of point guard, it's going to give him some time. So I wouldn't put it all on Kira just yet. Because, like we said, he's 17 years old. He's supposed to be worrying about homecoming dances right now, and he's going to be on a D1 roster. Another thing, yes, Dazon Ingram is definitely going to be part of it, and then also Herb Jones is going to have to play, maybe not call it a point guard, but he's going to be handling the ball a lot, especially in transition. So those two taking the next step, and especially in leadership roles, is very important. Another thing we need to plug, and I think it's pretty much set in stone now, so I feel comfortable talking about it. We're scheduled tomorrow to do an exclusive interview with Dazon Ingram, and that's definitely going to be up sometime next week, if at all humanly possible. So definitely keep an eye out for that because we're going to be asking him a lot of questions about, a question like this about, how you go into that second season after having a successful year last year. And also we're probably going to ask him who the best hair on the team is, so it'll be really interesting to see who he puts in there. Also, we're going to open up for one fan question to ask him. So if y'all want to, DM Dorm Squad Sports, or if y'all know us personally and put out a question, we're going to take the best question out of y'all, and we're going to shout you out on the podcast and ask that question. So if you want to have your question heard by Dazon Ingram and have him answer it, then make sure you hit us up on that. Our last question, and then we're going to talk about Georgia, Florida, and call it a podcast. And it's from Nolan. He said, our favorite and least favorite place on Alabama's campus.
Obviously, Bryant-Denny and Coleman Coliseum are two amazing places. Honestly, one of my favorites is the Ferg, just because it's got Chick-fil-A, it's got the Panda Express. It's just got all the great places to eat if you get tired of going to the dining halls. But I would have to say that my least favorite may also be the Ferg. Not the whole Ferg, but like as you're on the top floor when you're walking out, because that's where everybody always sets up their little tables. And so literally every time you walk out, somebody's asking you if you have a second to talk about this, talking about something else, and like you're just trying to get back to your dorm to eat your food.
Yeah.
All right. I guess my favorite place on campus would be like the quad. I really like the quad a lot. There's always stuff going on out there. Especially on game day, it's just an awesome atmosphere. Something that you really need to experience once if you never have and you're an Alabama fan. Least favorite place on campus? That's hard. Pretty much anywhere I have a class.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't have like a place I just can't stand on campus. Which I've only been here for a few months, so I don't know. I don't really have a least favorite. I don't guess.
Yeah, I would say I'm not going to steal one of y'all's picks because those are definitely great picks. So I'll just take the Strip. It's right there, right by the stadium. It has plenty of places to eat. It has Waffle House, which is a tradition for us after games. Definitely a great place. My least favorite, I'd probably just say North Lawn Hall, just because I have one class there and it's my only class on Thursdays, and it is such a trek from the dorms. You have to walk so far to get there, and all my other classes are around the quad and super close to each other and to my dorm. But that one, you just have to leave so early. I'm always almost late to that class just because I forget how long it takes to get there. And honestly, I still don't know the shortest way to get there. I kind of just like walk and get lost and then find it sooner or later. Another place probably be Lakeside. Honestly, all the dining halls, but Lakeside's the one that I go to the most often. And a lot of people talk up fresh foods. I really don't like fresh foods.
Yeah, Lakeside, in my opinion, is a lot better than Fresh Foods. I really like the stir fry they do there. I don't know. I've just had Fresh Foods a couple times, and the quality of food just tastes better at Lakeside to me. I don't know. It may be the same. Maybe just because I have to walk farther to go to Fresh Foods, but
Yeah. I went in there with my girlfriend a couple days ago, and one of the ladies yelled at me. I didn't even get any food, and she got mad at me about like standing behind Maddie in line. So ever since that happened, I was just like, I'll just stick and not eat food in Lakeside if I have a chance to not eat food. So we're already running the podcast a little bit late, so we're not going to do a whole lot in terms of picks. There is one game on the schedule in terms of national prospects and just the SEC in general. And I figure let's go ahead and talk about it. Obviously, Georgia, Florida. It's a game that really can decide who comes out of that division in the SEC. So if y'all want to put out who you think's going to win the game and any big talking points you want to bring up about the game.
I'll just do a prediction. I've got Georgia 23-20. I think it's a close game. I think Florida's got a real shot to pull the upset. Dan Mullen's had this team playing better every week. And let's be honest, I'm not that impressed with Georgia. They're not as good on defense as they were last year, and I don't think they're as good on offense as they were last year. I think the key to this Georgia team is going to be getting Justin Fields more expanded role within the offense. I think that their offense is best when he's at quarterback, even the running game, because the linebackers and the defensive ends got to respect his running ability, because he always got the option to pull the ball. It's not same threat really isn't there with Jake Fromm, but I got Georgia in a close one. I think it could go either way.
yeah, I completely agree with that. I do think Georgia's going to win 24-21. It's a close game. I think that the defenses are going to have to step up because, like you said, Georgia's defense just hasn't been the tier that they have last year. Like, they're still good, but you can tell they're just not the same. And I wouldn't be completely surprised if we didn't see if we saw Justin Fields if Jake Fromm is struggling like he did against LSU. Now, LSU lost to Florida. That was earlier in the season, but I don't think that their defense is going to pose as much of a threat as LSU's did.
Yeah, I think a big part, a lot of people asked why Jake Fromm wasn't pulled in that LSU loss because he didn't really have that good of a game. I think a big part about it was just the fact that, one, he is your guy. He's your leader, even though he's just a sophomore. And two, if you have Justin Fields and you need him to win a game, you really don't want to do that halfway through the regular season. You really want to spring that on someone like we sprung it on Georgia. I think he's really trying to learn from Nick Saban what to do with that situation. But I think Georgia's still going to win this game. I'll say, I don't know, like 35-31. I think it's going to be a little bit more high scoring. But Georgia's definitely going to have to figure out how to handle the fact that they're going up against Ammo and, the passing threat if things do get out of hand, which I don't think they will. They also need to be able to establish their run game a lot better. They definitely have good running backs there. It's just it hasn't worked out as of recent. And you can't give Jake Fromm the windows that he needs to have if you can't establish the running game first. You have to establish the running game and then do some play actions and give him some open balls. But if you just put, 7-8 people in coverage and trust that your interior line or your line in general is going to manhandle Georgia's offensive line, that's not a recipe for success. So unless there's anything else y'all want to add, that's going to wrap up the podcast for this week. Of course, it's the bye week, so we're going to put this out early so y'all can hear it. But we're going to probably put out 2 episodes next week, especially if we get to interview days on tomorrow. That's probably going to come out Monday, Tuesday of next week, maybe a little bit earlier depending on what's going on. So make sure y'all, subscribe, leave comments. If you want to leave your question in the comments of this one in iTunes, knock yourself out. Just put it wherever you want. We'll try to find it. And if it's good enough, we'll ask him. And make sure y'all subscribe so y'all get that exclusive interview next week. And y'all have a happy bye week and Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.